Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome back for another episode of the Networking RX podcast. This is Frank Agin, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections. Thank you for tuning in. Today I want to touch on something I learned. I actually learned from my daughter. It's interesting, as parents, we're supposed to be teaching our daughters, or teaching our kids, but from time to time, we get lessons as well. And this happened a number of years ago. At this point, my daughter's graduated from college. She's out there in the working world doing her thing. She has her own podcast. The name of her podcast is a big shout out to her and her podcast, the Number 10 Podcast with Logan Agin. And it's a podcast all about professional soccer, American professional soccer, women's team, the women's national team, the men's national team, so on and so forth. Look it up. Shout out to her. But at any rate, this dates back to when Logan was in high school. It was actually, if I recall, it was her junior year, and she was at a track meet. She ran track. She played soccer and ran cross country and ran track. And we were at a track meet. And the track meet doesn't matter, but it was out in the rural part of central Ohio. The meet was kind of finishing up, and it was in April. I remember that. It was in April. And if you're in the central Ohio area, you kind of get it. But it's spring, but it's not spring. Meaning the days are getting longer. You can certainly tell. You don't really have to worry too much about snowfall at that point anymore. But it was just kind of a cold spring day. It wasn't raining, but it was damp, and it felt like it could snow. And but as a parent, you go to your kids' activities, and for those I may not have shared this, but I have professional photography equipment. I've never been paid anything. I'll talk about that maybe in another episode. But I take pictures of the kids running, the kids playing soccer, the kids running cross country. Not just my kids, but all the kids on their teams, and anybody I know. I'll take pictures of their kids, but neither here nor there. So I'm waiting. The track meet's over, if I recall, and all my camera equipment was back in the car, and I'm just waiting for my daughter. It was one of these things where the bus took them to the meet, but we had arranged for my daughter to come home with us because where her high school is, she went to Catholic high school, it's 10 miles on the other side of home, which means I would have to go from the meet, drive past our house, all the way back to the high school, pick her up and come back, 20 miles in city traffic, and it just didn't make sense. So we arranged to pick her up. So I'm waiting for her, and she's out in the middle of the field, or in the middle of the track, kind of jibber-jabbing with the coach and some girlfriends and that, and I'm like, okay, I'm not being impatient because it's her time, and I want to give her time, but at the same time, I'm freezing. I just want to get out of there. So I'm just kind of, the equivalent of tapping my fingers, right? Come on, come on, come on. And finally that all broke up, and, she came with me and we got in the car. And we got in the car. I'm like, what were you guys talking about? The meet's over. It wasn't any kind of a big meet where you were waiting on results or awards or anything like that. But for some reason or another, they were sitting and they were talking. I said, what were you guys talking about? Oh, we were just sharing, life mantras, mantras that we have. And so we're driving home, and we're kind of driving. We had a little bit of a trip ahead of us. And I'm like, okay, what's your mantra? I threw out at my daughter. And not really knowing what she would say, but I figured, hey, this is a great time for us to kind of connect. And for those who have kids out there, daughters are much easier to communicate with, at least for me, than sons. So that was my experience. I don't want to paint a generalization. It's much easier for me to communicate with my daughter than my boys. I joke I could waterboard my boys and not get any information out of them, and I could flick a little water in my daughter's face, and she'll give me everything I need to know. So she's very communicative, and that, one of the many things I appreciate about her. So anyhow, I asked her. I said, "What's your life mantra?" And she just said, "Dad, I don't. It's not mine. I saw it on the internet, but it's kind of what I've adopted." And what she went on to say is that in every situation, your first thought shows you're human, but your second serves to define you. Let me re-say that. In every situation, your first thought shows you're human, but your second serves to define you. And so, okay, she said it kind of quickly, and we went over it again, and I'm like, all right, explain that to me if you would. And now it makes sense, but at the time it didn't, or at least not initially it didn't. But what she's saying is that we all have, we essentially have a brain, and it has thoughts, it has reactions. And those first thoughts are reactions, and those show that we're human. But the second thought is the thought that as a human being, we engage a higher order of thinking and have a different thought on what our initial reaction is. Or, a different thought. We have a different thought to what that initial reaction might be. And so she went on to kind of explain. She says, let's say somebody says something to you that's kind of insulting. Your first thought is you're angry because they've insulted you. But your second thought, when you kind of get a grip on yourself, it might be, okay, you can start to engage that neocortex, that higher order of thinking, and say, okay, why did they say that to me? Is there some merit to it? Or maybe they're just having a bad day. And so, that second thought, which we'll call the response, that second thought, where you've really had a chance to kind of process it, that defines us. Now, if you're somebody that just goes with that first thought, that happens. You're human. And the example, when I explain this to people, I like to use, this might be offensive to some, I don't know, I apologize if it is, but you're driving in traffic and somebody comes along and flips you off. And I don't know what it is about being flip the bird. It's, certainly not we all know what it means. It's the F word, followed by the word you. And it's certainly not an invitation to fornication. It's a very aggressive gesture, and we take offense to that. It's almost kind of like a taking up arms. I want to fight you kind of a thing. And when you get flipped off, you kind of have that response. It's like, oh my God, why did you do that? I'm mad at you. And that's our first thought. And that first thought is very human. This person's angry at me. I've got to be angry back. I've got to respond, or I've got to react, I should say. And that initial reaction, just our brain just kind of taking over, the fast part of our brain, the primitive part of our brain just taking over, has that angry reaction. But the response might be just taking a quick, deep breath and saying, I wonder what I did. Are they mad at me? Maybe it's somebody else. Maybe they're having a bad day. Did I cut them off? I didn't think I did, but maybe I did. Maybe I am to blame. Maybe I just need to drive more carefully. And those second thoughts serve to define us. And in those second thoughts, we can go with our initial reaction, flip them off back and, road rage kind of a thing. And it's human. It's not excusable, but it's sort of human. But we can better define ourselves in that second thought. That second, the second thought serves to define you. And in that second thought, we can define ourselves a whole lot better. We can be the calm person, in whatever situation it is. It's, being flipped off in traffic is really not the best of examples, because it's really kind of hard to track that person down and understand, okay, what it is that did I do. At least I don't advise tracking them down. That would be a little aggressive. But when we stop and think about this, in every situation, your first thought shows you're human, but your second serves to define you. It really has implications other than just being flipped the bird in traffic. We get emails that make us angry. That's our first thought. It's a reaction. It doesn't have to define us. We can take a deep breath and we can respond in a calm fashion. Somebody says something to us and it can be rather insulting. And we find ourselves insulted. And we shouldn't feel bad about that initial reaction because that's just human. What really defines us as people is how we respond, and taking a deep breath and not reacting. Oh my God, that was insulting. But just taking a deep breath and saying, why would you say that? I want to understand why you would say something. I felt insulted by that, and I'm not exactly sure why. So just a quick little lesson. Again, the mantra my daughter had, or hopefully still has. She is somebody who is she's well grounded. Let's put it that way. She's well grounded, great sense of humor. But the mantra was, in every situation, your first thought shows you're human, but your second serves to define you. So as you're out there dealing with people, with your relationships, whether you know people really well or just getting to know them, you're going to have reactions. That's being human. People are going to say things to you, and you're going to be offended. You might be angry. You might laugh. That first thought is a reaction. It's human. But the second thought, what you do with that first thought, that serves to define you and what type of person you can be, what type of person you can be known for. So anyhow, before we wrap up, if you know of that entrepreneur or professional that seems to enjoy networking, maybe they appear well connected, or someone, they might be involved in a chamber or professional networking organization, that would be a good person for me to meet. We're in the process of expanding AmSpirit Business Connections through franchising. And as a part of that, we are looking for people to add on to what they're already doing, our franchise opportunity. And so the best people for us to find prospective franchisees are people who are well connected, people who are involved in chambers, people who are in other networking organizations. LaTip, BNI, runs the gamut. We have a franchise opportunity that they could take advantage of. If you know of such a person or if you are such a person, certainly reach out to me. But if you know of such a person, email them and copy me on the email, introducing us, and I'll kind of take it from there. I'll just kind of share about our opportunity, see who they know, see if they have an interest in it. That's a great way to connect me with somebody and get a conversation going about our franchise opportunity, and one connection will lead to the next, which will lead to the next. Anyhow, I would appreciate the initial contacts with people.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connections. All rights reserved.